Don't make this crucial mistake when you go back and play Alternate Rundown 1. This might sound like a very clickbaity title to some people, but trust me when I say it isn't. This is a very crucial error that I could see a lot of people falling for, unfortunately. And the thing is, this isn't something that the developers did or didn't do, and because of it, it's all their fault. No, it's rather your fault, or I guess the individual person's fault. There is something that you might do, and if you do it, it potentially can ruin your entire experience of playing through a previous rundown. And if that's the case, the only person you have to blame is yourself, because you're the one who fell for the trap. And that's why I'm making this video, to bring this to light and try to warn people, that way they can enjoy these previous rundowns as much as they possibly can and not fall into this trap of just being disappointed by it and thinking that was an absolute waste of time, and basically just telling the developers, you're stupid, you should have just simply done Rundown 8, why the hell are you bringing back past content and making it look new? Because I can already see a ton of comments of people saying that, which, oh boy, negative Nancy's will be negative Nancy's. But what is this issue? Scalar, are you going to go on for another 3 or 4 minutes and not tell us? No, I'm going to tell you right here now. That issue is actually pretty simple, which means it's pretty easy to avoid, thankfully, but it's also pretty easy to fall for. The issue being people being too excited for these previous rundowns and setting the expectations too high, that and preparing to compare the previous rundowns too much to some of the current ones we've been playing recently. If you're wondering, what the heck do I mean by that? That doesn't make much sense, then let me explain. See, a lot of people are really excited for these past rundowns coming back, and they're excited to see what these changes are going to be made, because 10 Chambers stated that there are going to be some different things. They want to keep things similar to how they were before in the past, but things are going to be updated a little bit and tweaked as the developers see necessary. And a lot of people wanted to assume that that would be optional objectives or checkpoints and levels where they didn't exist before, maybe some enemies being in rundowns that normally were in those rundowns, different weapons or tools or brand new enemies, harder alarm doors, a different type of mechanics, just a bunch of different stuff. But the thing is, seeing how they confirmed that there will be no checkpoints or optional objectives in Rundown 1, and that they're actually going to try to keep things pretty similar to how they were before in the past, I think it's pretty safe to say that this isn't going to be the case most of the time. I do think it's reasonable that some of the alarms might be a little bit different, or maybe the way we should ideally set up for them due to tile sets might be different, or maybe even some of the enemies we see could be a little bit different. But I don't think it's going to be so much of a difference to the point where it feels like a different level. I don't think it's going to be the classic R1D1, R5D1 treatment where it was the same core level when it came to the objective, but 80% of the level was different and was, completely new to people. That's not going to be the case. So for those of us who have actually gone back and played these levels when they were active, I don't think we should be going into them expecting a whole lot of differences. Yeah, it'll be cool to sort of see what is different and be able to point out and think, oh, hey, like that's the same as it was before. Oh, that's a little bit different. But I don't think we should only be looking for the differences, and then if we don't see a whole lot of them, just assuming that it was a waste of time and practically nothing was different. Because if that's the case, then in my opinion, we're going into that rundown for the wrong reason. These rundowns aren't coming back because the developers want to make them different. They're coming back because the developers heard the cries and pleads of people asking for old content to be added back in and for them to stop deleting content, and they're finally doing that. The thing is, though, that the developers probably just can't bring the levels back exactly how they were before in the past, or they don't want to due to bugs and just outdated mechanics, so they want to change them up a little bit and just tweak them where they see necessary. That way it still feels like the original level, just a little bit updated. And for those of us who have not played these previous rundowns, we shouldn't be comparing them too much to Rundown 6 and 7, because times were a lot simpler back then. There were really good and bad things about a lot of the rundowns, pros and cons, things to like and dislike. I've made reviews for a fair amount of the rundowns before, and there's always stuff I like about them and dislike. I liked Rundown 2 a lot because almost every level sort of introduced something new into the game. It was really interesting. I didn't like Rundown 3 as much because it felt sort of like an easy copycat version of Rundown 2, but even then, Rundown 3 had some pretty fun and enjoyable levels. Rundown 4 was a lot of fun because it had so many optional objectives in it, but it sort of lost the storytelling aspect as it seemed a little bit too randomized. And this can be said about pretty much every single one of the rundowns. There are pros and cons to all of them. But as we go further back into the timeline, the simpler things get. Rundown 1, for example, only consists of 6 levels, and of those 6 levels, there's only 4 different level objectives. And when it comes to enemies, there's a whole lot less. Right now, at the time of Rundown 7, we have seen a total of 22 different type of enemies in this game. But when it came to Rundown 1, there were only 7. And of these 7 enemies, 2 of them did not show up that much in the rundown. One of them showed up a fair amount in one of the levels, but the other enemy only showed up for the last 10% of one of the levels, and that was it. And this might be different. We might have some new enemies in that rundown that weren't actually in that rundown before, but that might not be the case. So if you're somebody who's played some of the more recent rundowns like 5, 6, or 7, please, for the love of everything holy, when you go back into rundown 1, 2, and 3, don't compare it too much, because if you do, you will more than likely be disappointed and not have that fun of an experience. Instead, go into them thinking that this was a much simpler time. Go into rundown 1 thinking that this is the first rundown that the game really had. So this is where everything started. This was how like certain objectives looked back then, or how level design was, or just what was really considered a challenge and what the differences between A, B, C, and D tier levels were back then. And then see how that stuff developed over time. Now, as you play through rundown 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and all of them, you'll see how certain aspects of the game developed over time and how they got better and better, or in some people's eyes, worse and worse, I guess, and just what changed over time, which I think is the true beauty of having these rundowns come back to us in almost the same state as they were before, being able to see how far this game has come over the years. So to sort of summarize and wrap everything up, try to go into these rundowns with a fresh mind. Don't compare them too much to some of the more recent rundowns, and don't go into them only looking for the differences, because if you do, I guarantee you're not going to have as much fun and enjoyment as you should have if you went into it with a fresh mind. And that is the reason I made this video, because I want to warn people about that. That way they can enjoy these past rundowns and make some cool memories with old friends or new friends or anybody they play with. Relive the past with some of the old friends, or experience the past with new friends who have never experienced it before, and just see what happens. Have fun. It's a video game, for Pete's sake. That's what video games are meant for, to have fun, enjoy your time with friends, and just, not be overly negative and just hate on everything. It's meant to be enjoyable and to have fun. And that's what the developers want to see, is people having fun and enjoying the game for what it is. Not complaining the entire time and stating what it should have been or what it could have been. So let's, show the devs some appreciation for all the hard work they're putting into this, and have a good time with our friends. Enjoy ourselves and enjoy the past rundowns and what they'll bring to us. But that's about all I wanted to say in this video anymore, and I think I'll just go on a rant at that point, just repeat myself over and over again. So I'll wrap it up there. Thank you everybody for tuning into this quick video today. I just wanted to put that out on the table since I did think this was a pretty important topic to cover before the alternate rundowns came back. Hopefully a lot of you took this message to heart and you'll actually have a pretty good time playing through them. I'm greatly looking forward to them. Can't wait to play with some of my friends who started in rundown 4 and show them what 1 through 3 has in store for them. I think that'll be a lot of fun. I look forward to actually making videos on them again and remaking some of my old level guides if I deem it necessary to remake them, which I might, depending on what changes. I really hope that these next couple of weeks go by quickly, that way we actually get rundown 1 soon, because I am dying for stuff to do in this game right now. But thank you everybody for tuning into this video. I hope you did enjoy. I don't know when the next video is going to be out. I've been pretty busy in life and I'm trying to wrap some things up, that way I am fully prepared for when rundown 1 drops. So you might see another video in a few days, you might not see one for a week or maybe a week and a half. Who knows? I'll get one out as soon as I can. It just depends on scheduling and exactly when rundown 1 releases, I suppose. Once again, thank you all for tuning in today. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you all in the next one.